There's a specific food that ancient pharaohs insisted on for their journey into the afterlife. A tuber so rich in nutrients, it sustained entire civilizations for 6,000 years. Yet today, agricultural departments globally have branded it among the planet's worst weeds. Companies market herbicides specifically formulated to eradicate it, and technical advisories label it a menace. A whole industry has emerged around its elimination, with chemical manufacturers profiting immensely from teaching farmers how to poison it into non-existence. This plant yields more calories per acre than most cultivated crops. It endures droughts that annihilate other vegetation, thriving in conditions where wheat and corn would perish. It demands no fertilizer, pesticides, or sophisticated machinery. And, ironically, that's precisely why it had to be suppressed. This is the narrative of the superfood we now call a weed. Welcome to Nature Lost Vault. In the early 1900s, archaeologists exploring pre-dynastic Egyptian tombs uncovered something that would reshape our understanding of ancient nutrition. Within burial chambers dating back 6,000 years, they discovered not gold or jewels, but carefully placed dried tubers alongside the deceased. These were not random food tributes. Analysis revealed they had been deliberately chosen, processed, and preserved. Studies of mummies further showed these same tubers within their stomachs, indicating they had been consumed as a final meal. The living had placed them in tombs to nourish souls in the afterlife. At Wadi Kubanya, north of Aswan, archaeologists found wild roots of this plant dating to 16,000 BCE. A staggering 16,000 years ago, 8,000 years before agriculture as we know it existed. These were wild harvests, demonstrating that humans gathered this food during the last ice age. By 5000 BCE, this plant had become one of Egypt's most ancient cultivated foods, second only to emmer wheat and barley. It wasn't supplementary, it was foundational to the entire civilization. The tomb of Rekhmire, vizier to Pharaoh Thutmose III, displays wall paintings depicting peasants measuring and preparing these tubers. Workers are shown grinding them with long pestles, mixing them with honey, and shaping the mixture into tall, pointed cones. These were sacred cakes, offerings to the god Amun, mandated by royal decree for every feast. The ancient Egyptians called them Habel Aziz. The Greeks, specifically Theophrastus, documented boiling them in beer. The Romans actively traded them. From the millennia, they were ubiquitous. This is chufa, scientifically known as Cyperus esculentus. The Spanish call it chufa, Africans refer to it as atadwe, and in English, it's marketed as tiger nuts due to its striped skin. However, they are not nuts at all. They are tubers, underground organs for energy storage. Chufa belongs to the sedge family, the same family that gave us papyrus. It flourishes in marshes, in wet soils, in conditions where most food crops would decay. The plant features triangular stems and a subterranean network of tubers, with up to 75 per plant. These tubers are small, about the size of a chickpea. They offer a sweet, nutty taste, reminiscent of a blend between almonds and coconut. Ancient Egyptians ate them raw, roasted over fires, boiled in beer, or ground with honey. They also utilized chufa for medicinal purposes. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts, prescribes chufa mixtures for everything from oral treatments to fumigations designed to improve household scents. Beyond Egypt, Arabs introduced chufa to North Africa, Sicily, and Spain. In Valencia, it became the basis of horchata de chufa, a cold, sweet, milk-like beverage that has been produced there since the 13th century. Today, Valencia still cultivates over 1,000 tons annually, specifically for horchata. But here's a crucial point. Chufa wasn't just sustenance, it was a survival technology. The tubers can be dried and stored indefinitely without refrigeration or chemicals. They require no preservation method beyond air, remaining viable for years once dried. They can be rehydrated by soaking them in water for a few hours, swelling back to their original size, ready for consumption or planting. This storage capability meant ancient peoples could harvest chufa in November, dry it through winter, and maintain food security through periods of drought, famine, and siege. Now, let's explore the contents of these tubers, because this is where the suppression becomes truly egregious. Chufa contains up to 10% protein, comparable to many grains. Yet, unlike most plant proteins, chufa provides all essential amino acids. Its fat content is high, primarily healthy unsaturated fats like oleic acid, the same type found in olive oil. Researchers have even suggested chufa as a source for biodiesel due to its significant oil yield. The carbohydrate content is predominantly resistant starch. Resistant starch nourishes beneficial gut bacteria and doesn't cause blood sugar spikes like regular starch. Chufa boasts twice the starch content of potatoes, but with a lower glycemic impact, providing sustained energy without a subsequent crash. Its fiber content is nearly 4 times higher than standard fiber sources, promoting intestinal health in ways the Egyptians intuitively understood 3,000 years ago. It's also rich in minerals, including calcium, magnesium, iron, and potassium. It is naturally gluten-free, dairy-free, and allergen-friendly. You can mill it into flour, blend it into milk, roast it for snacks, or consume it raw. So here's the question that no one in the agricultural industry wants to address. If this tuber is nutritionally superior to most cultivated crops, if it has provided sustenance for civilizations for 16,000 years, if it needs no fertilizer and withstands drought, why isn't it a staple food? Why do we plant wheat, corn, and soybeans instead? The answer is straightforward, harsh, and reveals everything about who dictates what we consume. Chufa cannot be controlled. The moment it moved from Spain into commercial agriculture, a war was declared against it. It was branded a weed, and industrial agriculture unleashed every weapon it possessed to eliminate it. Yellow nutsedge, the wild form of chufa, is now officially categorized as one of the world's most detrimental agricultural weeds. Not a minor inconvenience, but one of the absolute worst. Agricultural extension offices issue bulletins about it. Universities conduct research on its eradication. Chemical companies develop herbicides specifically to destroy it. The United States Department of Agriculture published Technical Bulletin number 1642 specifically about yellow nutsedge, labeling it a menace in the Corn Belt. The USDA dedicated federal resources to researching how to eliminate a plant that once nourished pharaohs. Why? Because yellow nutsedge spreads via underground tubers that regenerate even after the visible plant is killed. A single plant can produce 75 tubers, and each tuber can survive in the soil for years. Once established, it is nearly impossible to eradicate. That regenerative ability, that resilience, that refusal to die, is precisely what made it so valuable for 6,000 years. It represents perfected survival. But for industrial agriculture, which relies on monocultures of patented seeds that must be purchased annually, chufa is a nightmare. Consequently, an arsenal of chemicals was developed to kill it. Glyphosate, halosulfuron, sulfentrazone, bentazone, an entire pharmacopoeia of poisons engineered specifically to halt chufa's growth. Research papers detail the ongoing struggle, acknowledging that single applications frequently fail. They recommend sequential treatments, year after year, just to achieve 90% control. This is the true threat. Not that chufa competes with other crops, but that it exposes the fragility of industrial agriculture. Our commodity crops demand ideal conditions, constant inputs, chemical protection, and extensive infrastructure. Chufa requires none of this. It simply grows and produces food abundantly without needing permission. In Spain, yields range from 3 to 6 tons per acre. Compare that to wheat, which averages 3 tons per acre with intensive chemical management. Even on poor soils, wild chufa yields hundreds of pounds of nutrient-dense food with zero inputs. And because the tubers store indefinitely, there is no waste. But here's what industrial agriculture cannot tolerate. You cannot patent chufa. It has been cultivated for 6,000 years and is in the public domain. You cannot sell herbicides for a crop that outcompetes weeds. You cannot sell fertilizer for a crop that thrives in poor soil. You cannot sell expensive equipment for a harvest traditionally done by hand. You cannot cultivate dependency when farmers can save and replant their own tubers indefinitely. The entire economic model of industrial agriculture necessitates crops that demand continuous inputs. Chufa embodies everything that model opposes. It is free, resilient, and self-perpetuating, and therefore it had to be labeled a weed, demonized, and systematically poisoned. Extension bulletins warn that yellow nutsedge becomes invasive, without acknowledging that invasive simply means successful. A plant that thrives without assistance is precisely what sustainable agriculture should look like. Instead, farmers are taught to view abundance as a problem, requiring chemical solutions. And who benefits from this? Chemical companies selling herbicides, seed companies selling patented varieties, fertilizer manufacturers, equipment manufacturers. They cannot profit from chufa, so chufa had to vanish. They convinced everyone it was worthless, a pest worthy of poison. But knowledge does not perish. In Valencia, Spain, the cultivation of chufa persists, with its regulating council safeguarding the horchata heritage, a tradition unbroken for 700 years. Across Africa, the Hausa community still cultivates chufa, known as a food crop, engaged in its trade within markets throughout Nigeria and Mali. This knowledge has endured through colonialism and the Green Revolution. Over the past decade, chufa has surfaced in health food stores, rebranded as tiger nuts, gaining popularity among the paleo and gluten-free communities. Researchers are currently exploring chufa for biodiesel production due to its high oil content, yielding 174 gallons per acre, while others investigate chufa flour as a gluten-free alternative to wheat. Yet, a curious incongruity remains. No major agricultural university actively promotes chufa as a staple crop, nor does any government agency allocate funds for extensive chufa research aimed at food security. Instead, they continue to issue publications on its eradication, maintaining an infrastructure dedicated to its suppression. The herbicide industry thrives on its destruction, perpetuating the narrative that chufa is a weed, not food, a pest, not a valuable resource. Despite the persistent onslaught of herbicides, propaganda, and its classification as one of Earth's most detrimental weeds, chufa endures. It still flourishes where conditions permit, producing tubers and offering the same nutritional benefits that sustained ancient Egyptian civilization. The inherent knowledge perseveres. Each individual who recognizes that the seemingly insignificant weed they've been eradicating is in fact a food source akin to those found in Pharaohs' tombs becomes more discerning. Every farmer discovering that chufa yields more nutrition per acre than wheat represents a loss of potential profit for chemical corporations. Each garden where chufa thrives without artificial inputs provides undeniable proof that the industrial narrative is misleading. Chufa was branded a weed because it couldn't be patented. Herbicides were created to destroy it because it resisted commodification. Its value was deliberately downplayed because it fundamentally challenges their entire economic framework. However, 16,000 years of human history narrates a different saga. This plant nourishes people abundantly, sustainably, and independently. That is why they wish for its existence to be forgotten. But you will not forget, for now, You are aware. The Pharaohs understood its worth. Agricultural departments are undoubtedly fully informed. Chufa remains, still flourishing, still offering millennia of nutrition to anyone willing to acknowledge its enduring presence. If this insight resonated with you, consider subscribing to Nature Lost Vault and hitting the notification bell. Every like and share contributes to preserving this invaluable wisdom. The next vault will soon reveal more.